somebody asked me, is there anything you can do about getting the power on? I said, well, I can hold two ends together and that'll work for a few minutes, and I'm sure that there are some people that would like for me to do that. but I ain't going to be a fuse very long. And we don't want those power guys going out there and getting hurt themselves in trying to grab a hold of some lines that aren't ready yet to be repaired.
But it's just discouraging when here's power, here's power, here's power, but the rest of us don't have any.
Yeah.
And you see all these cars or trucks, and they're not doing anything.
Well, I guarantee you, ma'am, and I can't speak for that specific instance. They might have been sitting there when they were seen, but most of these crews have been working 16 and 18-hour days. And the AEP guy told me this also. He said, Bill, please tell your constituents, don't expect these crews to work 24 hours a day.
No.
In the dark, in the heat, we want to work in the cool of the evening and in the night and in the early morning. But when it's blistering hot out there, people make mistakes. We don't want them making mistakes. We don't want other people to get hurt. So that's part of what they've been.
The businessman came out and asked. He says, I'm just curious, and they said we can't.
Yeah. They have to. Well, I was on the phone with AEP when he said a crew of 93 from another state, and I can't remember which state, just arrived. He said, we can't put them in the field until they have their safety briefing and until they are assigned to a regional director that will tell them which segments of the lines to work on. Yes, sir.
One of the things too, what she's talking about, when you see some of them sitting, they have an AEP guy or two out in the area they're going to send them, making sure that everybody running these generators ain't putting electricity back on them lines to kill the guys when they send it out. But when they get that clear to make sure the lines are neutralized, then they'll dispatch these crews in. But I was talking to a bunch of them out there too, and he said that's what they're doing.
Right.
AEP was out neutralizing the lines, making sure that anybody had generators didn't kill the breakers, feeding back on the line to electrocute somebody.
Yeah.
So,
You're right. They had to cut some people's power off that had already come back on in order to keep that from happening, because it had a conduit to areas that still needed to be repaired. Our power at home came back on at midnight, just past midnight on Tuesday morning. It stayed on for about 20 minutes. Well, my wife was happy. She got up, she shut all the windows, she turned the air conditioner on. Everything was fine. 20 minutes later it went down. And it stayed off for the better part of the next day and a half. But what can you do? Other questions?
Let me share something with you. I was talking with a gentleman from Oklahoma that they brought in here.
Yeah.
And he told me that the ones that came in, that they had to walk every foot of the lines and make notes of what was down and what wasn't down, and then put in a bid and wait for them to decide who they were going to let work on what section of the lines.
That sounds like a business decision. I don't know. I just don't know about that.
Well, I know we had somebody come up our driveway 5 days in a row. Specifically just checked on our line. Exactly about the fourth day, my wife's out there going, okay, you checked it. When are we going to get our power back?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to change gears a little bit. What can we do to keep our Supreme Governor from taking our rest area away from us? The little ones like a torch, and that was one of them he mentioned that he was going to bargain with. A lot of organizations use that for charity purposes.
Yeah.
Plus to help the drivers with the free coffee and so forth.
Sure.
And what can we do to convince the governor that we don't want him to do this with our parks?
Write the governor. Write the governor. Talk to your state rep. Talk to your state senator. When I speak with the governor, and I speak with him from time to time, it is certainly not daily communication because I'm your voice in Washington and he's working the state issues. I will certainly mention that to him when I see him the next time, but I would encourage you to let your local officials know, write letters, let your state rep and your state senators know so that they can deliver that message. That's their job. Yes, sir, Mr.
I kind of give you a little information on that. The state is taking proposals to bid out the rest stop here in Forks, one in Albany, the two by Lancaster, and 3 other ones around the state to big corporations to put in service plazas. From a taxpayer standpoint, then I'll speak to the commissioner, but as a taxpayer standpoint, this rest stop out here is just remodeled from the last 2 years.
Yeah.
The one in Lancaster, and this was with federal stimulus money from the previous administration, just opened up this January. Just opened up. They're going to tear all 4 of them down in the Hocking County Atmosphere, put service plazas in it. And I just was meeting with the owner of the Cool Spot when I was here just a little bit late with him, talking about what can we do. He's really concerned he employs. He's probably one of the largest private employers here in Freight Township. It's really going to affect his business, and it's going to affect other businesses in Adams County and in Hocking County. And the Southeast Ohio Commission Association, 24 counties oppose this. And I'm meeting with the state tomorrow again, but it's a waste of our federal taxpayers' money because these are just rebuilt. If they were 20 years old, I think people can understand it.
Right.
But as a commissioner,
But they're brand new.
yeah, this is really going to affect our local businesses. We're having the state compete with our local businesses, and it's really going to
Well, I can assure you that I am not in favor of wasting federal taxpayer dollars. That probably doesn't come as a surprise to you. We've got a national debt that is ballooning to unbelievable proportions. The former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Poppy, said that our national debt is the biggest national security risk that we have, and I agree with him. So I'm not in favor of wasting taxpayer dollars under any circumstances, and we're working hard to try and curb some of that spending that this administration and Nancy Pelosi and Congressman Charlie Wilson and others have voted for over the years, and we're gonna continue to work on that. Yeah, Pete.
Concern about the federal debt. It doesn't seem to be bothering a lot of people, and that's scary, because we're headed right behind Greece, and see some of these countries with this stuff, it's not sustainable. To use a code word that the left uses,
Yeah.
it's not sustainable. We're headed toward the cliff,
Yeah.
and we still have groups continually demanding more spending, higher spending out of Washington. And one of these days it's going to collapse.
Yeah.
And
Well, Pete,
some people don't seem to be, they're not even aware of it, or they don't care, as long as they're getting paid off by federal grants and stimulus checks and all that, and we're headed for this cliff.
We've got them demanding it, Pete, but they're not getting it. We have decreased federal spending for the last 2 years in a row. Now, you're not going to hear that on mainstream television.
Right.
We've stopped a lot of the increases in federal spending. You know, one of the things that a lot of folks don't realize is that the federal government is very much like a business in one respect. For those of you that have run businesses, you've been in business before, you know what a business does. A business will issue purchase orders for goods and services or supplies. And at some point down the road, those services are performed or the supplies come in. Well, when they come in, what has to happen then? You got to be paid. And we have passed laws. Our federal government has passed laws, and this administration has done it to an extreme that no other administration before it has, that has put in the law perpetual purchase orders that must be paid for. We can't stop those without passing legislation. We have passed a budget twice that would have balanced over time. One in 2011, one in 2012. but we cannot get the Senate to even take those budgets up.